Chapter 71. What do you mean? Bayan's eyes were full of disbelief. I mean just that. Raon walked to the front to meet every trainee's eyes. The mission isn't over yet. That's what I'm asking. We've killed all the monsters, and even finished cleaning it up, so why is the mission still not over? What was our mission? Huh? That's... Bayan frowned, then opened his mouth again. The monster extermination and the village's protection. Yes. Our mission includes the village's protection on top of the monster extermination. But we've already finished it. It's over since we've killed all the monsters. No. Raon shook his head and looked towards Cebu village, where they came from. We've been under observation until just now. The observing gaze went away about an hour ago. Huh? What do you mean? Seriously? The surprised trainees stood up at once. It must be an instructor. Bayan forced himself to twist the corners of his mouth. It seemed he couldn't believe there was someone observing them. It must be an instructor who came to watch over us. There's no way I couldn't tell who it was if it was an instructor's presence. That presence observed not only us, but also the entire village. Moreover, Raon pointed at the road they had walked past. As soon as we went half a day's distance away from the village, the presence disappeared. Towards the village, on top of that. Which means... Is it another enemy? Bayan's jaw dropped. He looked at the village with trembling eyes. Is that true? Martha, who had been silent, stood up with a frown. I'm sure of it. When did you start feeling that gaze? As soon as we arrived at the hill from where we could see the village. Wait. Then the reason you gave the command to Bayan was... Correct. I hid my presence in order to observe that gaze more clearly. Huh? Martha gulped. What the hell is he? The hair at the back of her neck stood on end upon hearing Raon's words. Not only had he felt a gaze and presence that even she couldn't feel, but he had also been investigating the gaze while hiding in the middle of the trainees by making Bayan the top trainee. His perception and the depth of his thoughts were so astonishing that she couldn't even speak. Was that the reason why you gave me the command? I thought you would manage the trainees better than me if you took command. Aye. You did perfectly as the top trainee, better than I'd thought. Thanks to that, they will think that you are the top trainee and shouldn't have felt my presence. You really did great, worthy of Sieghart's name like you said. I'll suggest that you're made vice-top trainee once we return. That's not what I meant. Bayan's lip quivered and he lowered his head. Damn it! He was too embarrassed to raise his head. I thought I did a great job. He believed Raon was speechless to his perfect performance, yet it wasn't the case at all. He had been hiding behind in order to hold the observer, the one that no one had noticed, in check. While he was focused on a small thing like the top trainee's right to command, Raon had been watching something much further and higher up. Crunch. However, it was funny that he didn't feel bad hearing Raon's compliment. It was a complicated feeling, a mixture of embarrassment and achievement. You probably didn't know this, but orcs, goblins, and kobolds aren't capable of cooperating. The ones that have been observing us must have done something with them. Without mentioning Eden, Raon told them about what he saw and felt. Our first mission is the village's protection. Our mission hasn't ended as we don't know the intention of that observer. He grabbed his bag and stood up. We are returning to Cebu village. However, unlike before, when we casually walked in where anyone could notice, we are going to move silently, so that no one will notice us. He continued after glancing at everyone. It would be great to have something to camouflage ourselves with, but since we didn't bring anything like that, let's start with the steps. I have something. Dorian, who had been out of his mind, raised his hand. What? I have covers to hide our military outfits with, and bands to attach leaves on our clothes. Having one or two of them won't be of any use. It will make you stick out inst. I have enough. Dorian took out a bunch of covers and bands from his belly pocket. Raon couldn't understand what the hell was wrong with him, bringing all of that around. How did you? I brought them just in case. Are you saying you brought 40 pieces of camouflage equipment just in case? It's better to be well prepared. Anyway, good job. Yes. Dorian smiled happily at getting complimented by Raon for the first time. Then his face grew clouded once again since they were probably going to fight once they returned to the village. Since we have enough materials, start camouflaging yourselves the way you've learned in the training ground. Come back here in 10 minutes, and... Raon raised his head after putting on the cover before anyone else. Crying. Huh? You. Return to the Sieghart branch office immediately and convey to them exactly what I told you. Me? You are the fastest. Even though Dorian was faster, something might happen where he is needed. Alright. Probably because he was happy about being acknowledged, Crine nodded immediately and started running in the opposite direction of the village. Raon watched him run for a moment, then turned his head. From now on, you must obey my orders no matter what. Refusal isn't an option. Everyone left. The man wearing a mask with an eyeball drawing on it knelt down. Are you sure? The young man holding a green helmet turned his head. Yes. I've confirmed their exit as they celebrated their victory for half a day. I've also checked the other side just in case, but there were no notable problems. Then we can start now. The young man snickered, then equipped the patternless helmet. Restoration. He spoke as if he were chanting, then green rusty water flowed down under the helmet. Fizzle. Enormous muscles expanded from his arms and chest, his fingers growing as hard as steel and his legs growing as thick as tree roots. What he was wearing wasn't normal knight armor. It was the grotesque armor of an orc, and not just any orc, a fighter orc that stood on the front lines of the orc raiders. Sparkle. Red eyes, full of murderous intent, shone from the orc fighter's helmet. Krrrrrrrr. A grotesque roar burst from his throat. It wasn't a human's voice, but a sound made by a monster. Wha! The orcs came running out from behind him, as if they were answering the roar. The man pointed towards Cebu village with a hand surrounded by a threatening red energy. Krrrrrrrr. Ki. The orcs ran down the mountain, all while screaming in hostility. Their movements were incomparably fiercer than when the trainees were killing them. Krrrr. The man wearing the orc fighter armor smiled savagely and watched the monsters rushing to the village like a tidal wave. Raon and the trainees arrived at the hill, where they could see the whole village underneath. Nothing happened yet, though. Bayan frowned upon seeing the village. There was nothing but smoke, showing how peaceful it was. Just wait. And lower your voice and body. Hearing Raon's command, Bayan closed his mouth and leaned forward. You must be extremely careful from now on, including your breathing. We might be annihilated the moment we get found out. Hop. The trainees covered their mouths with their trembling hands. You are exaggerating. It doesn't matter what happens, right? Since we are Siegharts. However, a few collaterals that didn't believe Raon complained. They were full of confidence, carried away by their first victory. Silence. You can complain once everything becomes clear. The collaterals only shut their mouths and sat down after Bayan told them to. Fill your stomach in advance with jerky, then put on your winter clothes. We won't be able to start a fire even if it gets cold at night. The trainees followed Raon's command, albeit complaining slightly. As such, the sun set on Cebu Mountain, and the dark night came. Under the pitch-dark mountain, hundreds of red lights shone. Green monsters poured out alongside with the ruby-colored lights. Eek! Oh orcs! They are monsters! It was true. The trainees gulped, seeing the orcs' brutal eyes. Bayan bit his dry lip. They had thoroughly investigated Cebu Mountain and the surrounding area, and no monsters had been found. It didn't make any sense that so many monsters had appeared in such a short time. He was right. Just like Raon had said, monsters that were even more powerful and ferocious than the ones they had exterminated were rushing towards the village. Ding ding ding. The villager standing watch on the wooden fence rang the bell. The village that was buried in darkness lit up and grew noisy. Damn it! Bayan stood up, grit his teeth. He breathed out roughly while drawing his sword. Let's go. Let's put an end to it this time for sure. Sit down. Raon gestured with his chin with a frightening gaze. What? I told you already. There was a gaze observing us. That wasn't something like a monster, but a human. Their identity wasn't revealed yet. But Cebu village's forces can't defend against that many orcs. Even then, we are going to stand by. We are going to be the ones annihilated at a single mistake. It was an accurate decision without being swayed by the emotions. They shouldn't make their move until they could properly identify the enemy's numbers and power. You said that already. Our mission is the village's protection. We have to move immediately. The instructor also mentioned that giving up or withdrawing are also a viable choice in the mission. Now isn't the right time to move. I can't stand watching it. Baden's hand holding the sword trembled. Letting them die like that isn't something a Sieghart swordsman would do. The orc's charge was reflected in his green eyes. You are right. We are Siegharts. We can't withdraw after seeing the weak in a predicament. Even if they are Eden? Raon's composed voice cut into the trainee's words full of passion. Eden? Eden from the 5 demons? Are you saying they are those lunatics? Eden is famous for controlling monsters. There's no way that many monsters would suddenly appear unless Eden is involved. Why the 5 demons? The trainee's eyes blurred as if they were being eroded upon hearing that their enemy was Eden of the 5 demons. Everyone knew just how powerful and frightening an organization Eden was. I know about Eden's power. They didn't attack us back then, which means they are afraid of Sieghart's name. Baen clenched his fist so tightly that it could bleed. I can't show my back and run away from such people. I believe drawing my sword here for them is what a Sieghart swordsman should do. I'm not telling you to not help them whatsoever. We need to first understand the situation, then decide if we can fight. That would be too late. Half of the villagers would be dead by then. He looked at Raon with trembling eyes. You know, I've acknowledged you. After watching your efforts, I acknowledged you in my heart as the one more befitting to the Sieghart name than me. But this is Raon. I'm going to help the village, even if that means I have to fight you when you try to stop me. Bayan drew his sword. His well-polished sword reflected his resolute face under the moonlight. You don't have to follow me. Follow me if you agree with me. He ran down the hill, surrounded by a green aura and unbreakable will. We shall go as well. Let's show the 5 demons how powerful Sieghart's sword is. Tisk. When Raon clicked his tongue, somebody stood up next to him. I'm going to go too. Runan ran down the hill, surrounded by a blue frost. We will follow you. The trainees from vassal families drew their swords and stuck next to her. Let's go as well. You are right. We are also Sieghart's trainees. The commoner trainees that were affected by Bayan and Runan's conviction also drew their swords and ran towards the village's light. More than half of them had left, but Raon wasn't flustered. Because I knew this would happen. He already knew the trainees were those kinds of people. Having them run down to help them was also a part of his plan. He had even used Aura to specifically send Runan a message to go down to help Bayan. However, the most unexpected person was staying. Why are you not going? Raon turned around to look at Martha, who was leaning back against a tree. I told you already. I'll follow your instructions on this mission, regardless of what they are. Raon could see the sincerity in her shining black eyes. It seemed she had her own conviction. I see. Raon snickered. Then what are you going to do now? Are you just going to spectate them from here? No, we are going to move as well. Raon shook his head and stood up. The orcs had already reached the wooden fence. It looked like a red mist was shimmering from the people's fear and the orcs' madness. But instead of moving openly like them, we are going to hide our presence. Warm yourself up so you can move whenever it is necessary. After giving out his instructions, he glared halfway up Cebu Mountain instead of at Cebu Village. A powerful and thick murderous intent was wavering over there. He must be there. He could stop the trainees, but the reason he let them do as they pleased was simple. Because he managed to identify the man over there. A monster that had borrowed an orc fighter's strength and combative spirit was looking down on the village from midway up the mountain. It would be difficult to win against him if he fought him head-on, but assassination was a different story. I'm more than capable of killing him as long as they keep his attention. Raon turned his wrist, shining his red eyes as the moon floated in the sky. This is going to be a long night. Chapter 72. What are those insects? The man wearing the orc fighter armor growled like a beast. He was looking at Bayan and Runan, who were running down to Cebu Village. They are Sieghart trainees. The red-eye demon, who was wearing a mask with an eye drawn on it, knelt and answered. I'm sure you said that those brats had returned. Murderous intent could be felt from his voice. It was completely different from his usual calm and composed voice. I am sure they left. I came back after confirming that fact. That means somebody among them had realized you were tailing them. What an idiot. The man raised his feet and smacked his shoulder. Coo. The masked man groaned without moving, despite one of his shoulders being crushed. Tisk. The man clicked his tongue violently, then stood on the boulder. The Sieghart trainees had already arrived at the village and were running towards the wooden fence that was being broken through. Are those two the ones? Runan and Bayan killed the orcs that were breaking the fences in a single strike. The man breathed out roughly while watching them. Probably not. There was a black-haired girl who was better than them. Where is she? Judging from the way she can't be found anywhere, she must be hiding somewhere and watching. The man wearing the orc fighter armor crossed his arms and looked down on the village. They fight well. The Sieghart trainees drew a line, as if they made a formation, and were killing all the orcs that went over the wooden fence. They aren't going to be enough to break through. Looking back at the masked man, he gestured with his chin. Send the green demons. Pardon? Didn't you say that you wouldn't meddle with Siegharts? Do you think they came back here without doing anything after noticing you? They must have sent a reinforcement request to the branch office, and it's too late to stop it. The best course of action right now is to finish the job here as soon as possible, then leave after burning everything to the ground. Understood. The masked man nodded, disappearing into the shadows. The man went down the mountain while flexing his wrist. A smile appeared on his mouth that could be seen slightly. To have returned despite having been spared, your luck must have ended after being chosen by the Siegharts. Slash. Bayan cut the orc running towards him in half, then jumped over the half-destroyed wooden fence. Stand in front of the wooden fence. People will be in danger if the orcs come over the fence. Yes. The collateral trainees answered loud and clear, creating a formation in front of the wooden fence. Whir. Bayan turned his head, noticing the frost spreading from his left side. It was Runan. The frost on her sword also covered the ground, hindering the orc's movements. Clank. The frost spread into the air, shedding blood, and the orcs collapsed, unable to do anything. That's unexpected. Runan always stuck next to Raon, so the fact that she had come with him without following his opinion was unexpected. But I'm glad. The orcs' numbers were one thing, but their ferocity was on a different level than the ones they had faced the day before. If Runan and the trainees from the vassal families weren't there, the wooden fence would have been completely broken by then, resulting in many casualties in the village. Don't take the orcs' attacks head-on. Deflect them, then counterattack. While giving out appropriate instructions, Bayan kept slashing the orcs. Since he had already done it before, it wasn't too difficult to command the troops according to the situation. We should be able to stop them at this rate. Even though the orcs were stronger, the trainees were more than enough to defend against them since they had the experience of fighting them. However, if they were really eaten like Raon had said, that wasn't going to be the end of it. For sure. Rustle. While Bayan was thinking about the future, the forest in front of the village started to move. No, it's not the forest. Mysterious men hiding their entire bodies with green hooded robes popped up from the forest. They numbered over 40 at a rough count. Green demons! Baden screamed, gripping his sword tightly. Damn it! They were really Eden. The green demons were Eden's lesser warriors, and they possessed the characteristics of orcs, goblins, and kobolds. Runan! While raising his aura to the extreme, he called for Runan. We are going to fight in front. Support us from behind. MHM. Runan immediately responded, spreading an even thicker frost towards the approaching green demons. Smack! Smack! The orcs drew the axes from off their backs and around their waists, swinging them towards the trainees. Deflect the blows. Baden deflected the axe with his sword and cut off the green demon's head. Splash! The sensation of cutting through human flesh gave him goosebumps, but he endured it by biting his lip. Don't consider them human. Cut their heads off in a single strike. Even in his flustered state, Baden was properly using the Sieghart swordsmanship. He advanced while sending out sharp strikes. Ha! Runan spread the frost from her sword towards Ban and the trainees that were advancing. Whir! Whir! The frost went past them, dropping down on the green demons' heads. Crack! The green demons' clothes and skin were frozen and their movements slowed. Do it now! Charge! Baden wasn't just commanding them. He was the first one to charge onto the green demons, starting to kill them. We can win! His chest stung despite saying that. There were still many green demons left, and the trainees were getting tired. Moreover, swoosh! The green demons who had goblins and kobolds characteristics didn't approach them. Instead, they started firing poison needles, or spreading poison mists. Cover your mouths. Baden took his clothes to cover his nose and mouth, then parried the poison needles fired at him. Ugh! Coo! Damn it! Since there were too many green demons firing the poison needles and there were multiple green demons approaching them, the trainees started to step back one by one. Coo! Baden breathed out roughly. His head felt dizzy from parrying the poison needles and fighting while holding his breath. Ha! He glanced around, hearing Runan's shout. She was overpowering the green demon with intense frost, but the fact that she had come to the front line meant that the situation was already at its worst. Key! The green demons were cunning. The moment Runan's frost spread, they stepped back and started throwing poison needles and poison smoke. Huff! Ugh! Upon inhaling the poison smoke, the trainee's limbs started wobbling. Hold on. We still. He felt like the command he had just given was in vain. The strength left his arms and his legs trembled. At this rate, they couldn't last for long. As the word annihilation kept coming back to his mind, a powerful energy burst up from the left side. Bang! Bang! A yellow aura crushed against them like a tornado to defeat all the green demons, and Martha Sieghart was standing there alone. Kill them all! Following Martha's command, the trainees that remained next to Raon rushed onto the battlefield. And now is the time. Kill them all. Baden grit his teeth and brandished his sword. The trainees, including him, had inhaled poison smoke. However, he couldn't miss the opportunity. Go for it. At Martha's aura-filled strike, the green demon's axes and swords were shattered. It's perfect timing. Thanks to her well-timed surprise attack, the green demons were getting wiped out, unable to find an opening to attack back. We did it! Raon was still nowhere to be seen, but it looked like they could win. Don't let a single one escape. Baden grit his teeth and rushed towards the green demons. Until the end, huh? He was going to swing his sword and follow them to Cebu Mountain, but he stood still, ducking his head. What is it? Something was moving inside the red cloud and fog that seemed to cover the entire forest. He could hear somebody gulping from behind. Step! A mysterious man wearing puffed-up green armor made his appearance. He was wearing an orc fighter helmet with a cross-shaped scar on the forehead and a bucktooth rolling up to the tip of his nose. Baden's hand holding the sword trembled. That orc fighter armor. Green war demon. Green War Demon was one of Eden's lower executives, and he was a monster that had the orc fighter's strength transferred to his human body. A retreat. Button stepped back, his trembling hand holding his sword. His limbs trembled as he faced that frightening presence. Ah! Runan couldn't hide her trembling eyes either. Green War Demon, huh? On the other hand, Martha licked her lips. Her eyes looked like she was going to attack him right away, but she was also aware that she couldn't win on her own. You are making it annoying. The Green War Demon's mouth opened. What came out was a growl full of murderous intent, as if he had really become an orc fighter. I gave you the chance to return after playing around a little, yet you threw it away. That was completely stupid. He grabbed the double-edged axes on his back. An overwhelming wave of energy rampaged through the trainees, taking their breath away. The red energy burning on the axe was the combative energy that only mid-upper level monsters could use. And Eden's executives were all capable of using that combative energy. Coo! Coo! The trainees were barely standing, biting their lips. We would have already collapsed if we didn't have that training. Baon's fingernail scratched his hand. If Rimmer hadn't trained them to withstand his pressure, he would have been kneeling and waiting for his death. So, you withstood my pressure despite being a mere trainee. You are indeed a Sieghart. The Green War Demon grinned. But you are stupid. You are going to die because you've acted rashly, without even knowing your own abilities. Raon's warning resounded in Baon's head. We won't know until we try, you disgusting bastard. Martha stepped up while provoking him. She bent her hand backward to signal Runan and Baon. Seeing her hand signaling them to attack him at once in 3 seconds, their eyes glowed intensely. Whatever you do is pointless. Shut up. Your breath stinks. Martha dashed at the center while Baon and Runan penetrated from both sides. Do you think you can do it together, just the three of you? The Green War Demon swung his axe horizontally. A heavy combative energy engulfed the space, following an intense wind pressure. Kwa! Kia! Ku! Baon's sword was broken, Runan bounced back, and Martha knelt down. It all happened in a single strike. The Green War Demon was on a completely different level from the three of them. Ah! Even those three can't match up to them. Then how? What about Raon? Where is he? He must have run away. Why would he be here after watching that? Despair filled the trainees' eyes. The three of them could defeat all the trainees combined, yet they had crumbled in a single strike. They couldn't figure out a way to win. However, they couldn't run away either. Forget running away, they couldn't even breathe properly because of the Green War Demon's murderous intent. Did you think we let you go because you were so strong? The Green War Demon walked towards them with an even more powerful murderous intent. You are just larvae riding on a huge tree named Sieghart. You don't have any ability, might, or willpower. Did you think you were some sort of big deal? Every single one of his steps ignited a flame of combative energy from the ground. Ah! Ku! Baon grabbed his broken sword tightly and Runan raised her body with trembling arms. Damn it! Martha's fighting spirit hadn't faded away yet. She grit her teeth and raised her aura. You are the best among this pile of trash. The Green War Demon walked towards Martha, who was standing at the front. I guess, since you managed to notice that gaze. He growled and stood in front of Martha. Ugh! Unable to shake off the orc fighter armor pressure, Martha bit her lip and her body trembled. Since it came to this, I'd better trample on all the Sieghart's sprouts. The Green War Demon raised his double-edged axe, his smile full of murderous intent. Then die. Ah! Martha's eyes widened. The moment the Green War Demon was about to swing his axe, a pitch-black shadow appeared behind him. Raon Sieghart. The boy that had never shown himself so far swung his sword. No. You die. Surrounded by a crimson flame, Raon's sword dashed towards the Green War Demon's neck. Chapter 73. Raon didn't show himself, even after sending out Martha and the rest of the trainees at an opportune moment. He held his breath as he hid his presence even more, like a wild animal or a twig swaying to the wind. The trainees recovered their courage and willpower at the arrival of Martha's reinforcements, wiping out the green demons. It's going to start now. Raon warmed himself up while breathing out slowly. It looked like victory was near, but it was also the most dangerous moment. The Green War Demon hasn't made his appearance yet. Eden's Green War Demon, who had ordered the Green Demons to attack, must have been up there. Raon approached the bushes where everyone was fighting very slowly and silently. The moment Bayan, Runan, and Martha were about to swing their swords at the remaining few Green Demons, he appeared. The Green War Demon, I knew you were there. Eden's lower executive, the Green War Demon, who had received Orc Fighter's strength. He was walking towards them with tremendous pressure. Slam! Bayan, Runan, and Martha were bounced back at once with a single enraged strike. Oppressed by the Green War Demon's pressure, they couldn't even move their bodies properly. Thump! Raon moved his feet, synchronizing his heartbeat with the Green War Demon's breath. The movement of his feet was the shadowless steps he had learned, his life on the line, when he used to be an assassin. Moving as secretly as a shadow, he moved to the Green War Demon's back. Whoosh! As the Green War Demon was about to swing his axe at Martha, he raised his sword while hiding his murderous intent under the Green War Demon's murderous intent. Then die! The moment the Green War Demon was about to strike, he used the 10,000 Flames cultivation. Whir! The first flame of 10,000 Flames cultivation. The flower of flame that ignited at the end of the sword fell towards the Green War Demon's neck. You! The Green War Demon's eyes were full of astonishment as he turned around. He used his combative energy on his back in that instant, trying to deflect the sword's trajectory. Just die without struggling. Raon split apart the Green War Demon's combative energy with the flame from the 10,000 Flames cultivation and slammed his sword down. Qua! The moment the sword that fell like a lightning was about to slice his neck, he pierced into him instead. Thud! With red blood gushing out, something fell to the ground. Raon frowned and glared in front of him. Coo-hoo! The Green War Demon, whose left arm was completely cut off, was smiling as he coughed up blood. It looks like you didn't expect me to move into you. Crazy bastard. Human instinct was to run away from danger, not to run towards it. Moving towards him in that instant to sacrifice his arm instead of his neck was a really crazy thing to do. This is why I didn't want to fight them. Raon clicked his tongue. Coo! Red combative energy burst from the Green War Demon's shoulder, and the blood that was gushing out like a broken dam stopped. It looks like you can't move either. Raon didn't respond. Just as he said, he couldn't move for a moment since he had wagered a lot on that single strike. He would have run towards him to behead him already if he could move his body. Are you the person in charge here? He opened his mouth while recovering his body and aura by swinging his ring of fire. What else? Do you think somebody higher up than me would come to such a small village? The Green War Demon grasped his axe with the remaining arm tightly. The red combative energy, which had subsided, burst out once again. Well, we never know. After all, you guys are lunatics. Releasing the murky energy with his breath, Raon bent his knee slightly. He filled his lungs with fresh air in a posture where he could start dashing whenever he wanted. Thud! The Green War Demon kicked the ground. He swung his axe, exuding a tremendous amount of murderous intent enough to give him goosebumps. Whir! Raon swung his sword upward. The cleansed first flame of the 10,000 Flames cultivation surrounded his sword. Clang! The sword and double-edged axe clashed, sounding like steel being crushed. Whir! The crimson spark spread out, burning the ground. Did you just block that? The Green War Demon swung his axe horizontally while glaring at him. The powerful wind pressure made it difficult to move his sword properly. I should give up on being a swordsman if I can't even block that. Raon swung his sword, engulfed in fire. Clash! His hand felt like it was being torn apart as they clashed for the second time, but he brandished his sword once again, hiding his expression. You understand the warrior's spirit. A brat from Zighart. The Green War Demon burst into grotesque laughter and swung his axe. Even so, I can't spare your life. I never asked you to spare my life. Raon swung his sword to block the axe and advanced one step. Clang! Facing the tremendous amount of combative energy imbued in the axe, Raon's sword trembled as if it was going to break. I have to withstand it. He couldn't break through him with his current power. He needed to fight while deflecting the axe's energy. Slam! Using the intricacy of Sieghart's swordsmanship, he blocked the Green War Demon's instinctive attacks. Raon and the monster with an orc's instinct clashed their sword and axe countless times at close quarters. What is this? Bayan's chin trembled, his eyes wide. Seriously, what is this? He couldn't breathe because of the two monsters fighting in front of him, clashing their sword and axe. How many times have they swung their weapons? He couldn't even recognize the trajectory of the sword and axe. It would have been an understatement to say they were better than himself, since they were on a completely different level. Whoosh! The Green War Demon's axe pummeled down like lightning. He unconsciously swallowed. If that attack was directed on his head, his body would have been split into two right after. Goosebumps appeared on his arm thinking about it. However, Raon parried the axe by swinging his sword in a semicircular trajectory. Slam! The axe crushed the ground. Red energy burst out from the cracked ground. That. Bayan scratched the ground with his hand. It's the Star Connecting Sword. The Star Connecting Sword was the most basic technique learned before anything else in Sieghart. Raon was stopping that mighty axe using the Star Connecting Sword alone. Bayan couldn't close his mouth. Saying that he was surprised was an understatement at that point. I thought I had somewhat caught up to him. He'd been nurturing his body and mind with everything he had after being impressed by Raon's efforts. He had thought he was right behind him now, but that wasn't the case at all. The strike that cut off the Green War Demon's arm earlier and the might Raon was displaying right now far surpassed a trainee's level. Do you get it? He turned his head around at the voice that sounded like a lamentation. Martha was right next to him, gasping for breath. That's his true power. Martha narrowed her eyes and glared at Raon, who was fighting equally against the Green War Demon. What he showed us was just the tip of the iceberg. She was already aware of the fact that Raon had been hiding his power. However, she had never imagined he was strong enough to fight on equal ground against the Green War Demon, who had pushed back herself, Bayan, and Runan with a single strike. I have no choice but to acknowledge him now. Martha clenched her fist. The mission. Everything was in Raon's grasp. The situation developed just as he had said, and it was achieved the way he wanted. The only thing left was defeating that monster. Ha! Runan, who regained her composure, approached them holding a broken sword. Raon, who seemed to be barely holding on, was reflected on her blue eyes. She bit her lip harshly and was about to participate in the fight. That was when Martha blocked her way. Calm down. You will get torn into pieces the moment you step in. I can help him. You are going to die before then. I don't care. Runan shook her head. Only thing reflected in her eyes was Raon, who was evading the axe with difficulty. This girl. Martha furrowed her brow. Considering she was trying to participate despite knowing the danger, it seemed she wasn't following Raon for no reason. Then hold back just a little bit longer. What? That guy. Martha pointed at Raon. His eyes, which looked like crimson lightning, were bursting up instead. Martha continued while looking at such eyes. He has the same eyes as when he won against me in a duel. Coo. The Green War Demon bared his teeth, exuding his combative energy. It looks like you are running out of strength, am I right? Raon didn't respond. He just focused on swinging his sword and blocking the axe. The murderous intent is getting more and more intense. It seemed that he didn't earn the orc fighter's armor with hopscotch, since he was still full of energy despite having lost a quarter of his upper body. It was truly a crazy amount of endurance. I should have finished him earlier. Raon clicked his tongue. He didn't completely hide his murderous intent because it was his first assassination after a while. It was a regretful situation. You are special. Considering your age, it wouldn't be an overstatement to call you the biggest genius on the continent. However, the corners of the Green War Demon's lips were lifted in the shape of a crescent moon. I'm also special. The intensity of the flame on his axe increased. Whoosh! The axe's strike grew faster and fiercer. Clang! Raon held his sword vertically to block the blow. When he was about to parry it like before, the axe's blade rotated and pressed on the sword. I finished figuring out the swordsmanship you're using. It was a bit difficult because it was a variation of a basic swordsmanship, but it's over now. The Green War Demon wasn't lying. He was reading into the direction Raon was going to move his sword, preventing him from blocking or parrying. Bam! A different sound roared from the sword and axe clashing. It was a clash of strength. Coo! Raon groaned despite having been holding it back. His forearm trembled from the strength of the axe, which was too much for him to handle. Did you know that? Eden's executives have a special ability. What I have is a sense. A sense that tells me where you are going to move your sword next. The Green War Demon grinned and swung his axe horizontally. The combative energy in his axe created a strange flow and blocked where Raon was going to dodge. You talk a lot, just like somebody else I know. Raon smiled coldly and swung his sword upward. Screech! Along with the sound of sawtooth being twisted, the Green War Demon's axe went past the blade, heading to the ground. Thud! Raon kicked off from the collapsing ground, piercing the Green War Demon's chest. He swung his sword to his surprised eyes. Slice! A lethal amount of blood burst out from the left side of his chest. Coo! Swinging his axe haphazardly, he stepped backward. Tisk! Raon clicked his tongue. He was trying to cut him apart completely, but he was lacking in strength and distance. It was difficult to fight in a body that hadn't completely grown yet. Why, you bastard? How could you? Just like you figured out my swordsmanship, I also analyzed your attacking method. Do you expect me to believe that? Why not? If you can do it, then I can do it as well. It wasn't a lie. Thanks to using the Ring of Fire while fighting him, he managed to predict where the axe was going to move next. It wasn't perfect, but he could predict half of his movements. Huff! Blood started subsiding from the Green War Demon's chest. A flame of combative energy burst from his entire body. What is your name? It's Raon Sieghart, nameless Green Demon of Eden. Blonde hair and red eyes. I've been feeling uneasy from the first time I saw. As if his murderous intent was taking shape, red energy burst out from his eyes. You've inherited most of Glenn Sieghart's blood. What? You are dangerous. I'm going to kill you here no matter the cost. For Eden's future. Wham! The combative energy that was spreading around the Green War Demon gathered in the double-edged axe. It looked like a mace made of red blood instead of an axe. I'm going to destroy everything, you and the Siegharts behind you alike. The Green War Demon ground his teeth and raised his axe. Raon didn't step back despite witnessing that tremendous amount of power. He brandished his sword, which was swaying to the powerful energy wave. It's the perfect opportunity to try it out. Stretching his knee to the front, he turned his sword behind him. Whir! The single flame burning at the extremity of his sword flowed down the edge, splashing as if a tidal wave was carrying it. The 10 flames of the 10,000 flames cultivation. The second door of the 10,000 flames cultivation opened up, and 10 flowers blossomed on the blade and started dancing. Chapter 74. The Green War Demon had never considered Raon a child, not since his surprise attack. He was hiding his presence as well as a wild animal, and his slash had no sign of hesitation. An assassin, and a highest-level assassin on top of that. If that monster's name wasn't Sieghart, he would have thought he was an assassin. However, his surprise attack had only succeeded halfway, and the Green War Demon had the vitality of an orc fighter. He prepared for the next attack while burning up his combative energy and his vitality. It seemed Raon had spent a lot of his power in that surprise attack, as he was unable to move right after. In the meantime, he stopped his shoulders bleeding with his combative energy and gathered his power. It's over. He had lost his arm and shoulder together, but since he managed to survive the first strike, he thought he was going to win without much difficulty. Since he was raised as an assassin, he thought he would be weak in a head-on fight. Surrounding his axe with combative energy, he pummeled it down on him. He wanted to split him in two like firewood, but Raon easily managed to deflect the attack. How can he be proficient at something other than surprise attacks? At that age? It didn't make any sense. Even if he was a Sieghart, it was impossible for such a young boy to deflect his attack like that. He isn't normal. The green war demon felt uneasy somehow and kept swinging his axe at Raon. However, he managed to defend himself against all his attacks by blocking whatever he could block and evading whatever he needed to evade. He didn't feel like he was fighting against a young boy anymore, but a swordsman that had gone through countless battlefields. Still, the green war demon had the orc fighter's sense of smell. As long as he had that ability to grasp the enemy's weakness and what they were lacking, he couldn't possibly lose. I did it. He understood everything about the young boy's swordsmanship. He swung his axe at the weakness he managed to find. Slam! The clashing sound of sword and axe resounded out loud. A satisfying sensation could be felt through his hand. Beheading him was now just a matter of time. He swung his axe at the faltering boy. When he expected blood to gush out from his neck, his sword bent in a direction that he had never seen before to attack him. Clang! Because of the powerful strike and his carelessness, his axe was pushed back and his posture was broken. Arg! Before he managed to regain his footing, Raon attacked him. He swung his sword, slashing through his combative energy. Bam! The sound of his chest and ribs being split apart resounded in his ears, and he felt an excruciating pain. Coo! The green war demon coughed up blood and grabbed his chest with his remaining hand. You bastard! How did you even? Just like you figured out my swordsmanship, I also analyzed your attacking method. Do you expect me to believe that? Why not? If you can do it, then I can do it as well. He gulped. The faint smell of danger was getting stronger. He had a talent that he had never seen before, despite having witnessed countless talented people. He had a premonition that he was going to become Eden's strongest enemy if he was left alone. At any cost. He needed to kill him. Whir! He surrounded his axe by burning up his remaining combative energy and vitality. The double-edged axe's blade was burning intensely, engulfed in flames. Grrrrrr. The moment he was about to strike in order to get rid of the boy named Raon and the other Siegharts behind him. Crack! His eyes started burning in a crimson color. Whir! The moment he murmured the 10 flames of the 10,000 flames cultivation, the small flame burning at the tip of his blade spread to the edge and 10 flowers of flame blossomed. Ah! His chest tightened as he saw the flames. The injury on his chest, which he'd stopped from bleeding, burst open once more. The boy pointed his burning sword at him, his eyes shining like a demon. Consider yourself lucky to become the first victim of the 10 flames. Whir! Raon's eyes shone, watching the flame surrounding his entire sword. It was a success. He thought it was still impossible for him, but he managed to complete the 10 flames thanks to the enlightenment he'd had during the battle. Whir! Overflowing power, strong enough to cut the green war demon apart in his unscathed state, burst from the sword. Coo! The green war demon's astonishment could be seen through his helmet. What the hell are you? How can you be so strong at this age? It looked like his astonishment had surpassed the orc fighter's instinct, since his voice had returned to a human's. That's not the important part right now. Raon took a step forward, spinning his flaming sword. Come at me. Ha! White steam billowed from his helmet. He started gathering all his remaining energy on his right arm. Thud! He kicked the ground and pierced into him. The double-edged axe that was pummeling down contained all his remaining energy. Clang! The moment the axe was right under his nose, Raon thrust the sword he was keeping at his back. 10,000 flames cultivation, 10 flames. Flames dancing wind. The flower blossoms sitting on his blade spread out and started rotating. It looked like a whirlwind was rising from his sword as a tremendous firepower split apart the green war demon's combative energy. Bam! Facing the power of 10,000 flame cultivation's sword technique, flames dancing wind, which could be used after completing the 10 flames. The green war demon grit his teeth. It's not over yet. I'm going to get rid of you at any cost. No, it's already over. Raon calmly declared, swinging his sword. Slash. The combative energy, already torn apart, couldn't withstand the 10 flames fire. The flaming silver blade pierced through the green war demon's heart. Ku, Yu Zig. Unable to finish his last sentence, he collapsed on his back. Clang. The dark green helmet on his head split in half, along with his armor. A young man in his 20s was found dead inside of it, with his eyes white. Raon extinguished the 10 flames fire. Ha! He breathed out roughly, feeling his pent-up exhaustion. He was about to sink to his knees as his strength left his legs, but he endured it and turned around. He could feel the gazes of the trainees and the villagers, full of various emotions like astonishment, shock, relief, awe, etc. You? Raon. You bastard. Are you seriously? Bayan's lip trembled, unable to finish his sentence, and Runan sank to her knees as if she was more anxious than he was. Martha's eyes were shining, as if she was going to pounce at him at once. It's not over yet. Raon raised his sword, pointing at the bewildered green demons. Since they had never expected the green war demon to lose, they were at a complete loss. Wipe them all out. Wah! The trainees, whose fighting spirit could pierce the heavens thanks to Raon's victory, dashed at the green demons surrounding the battlefield. Ha! Raon rotated the ring of fire to melt down the exhaustion surrounding his body and started filling his energy center with aura. This is so great. The ring of fire was most effective after the fight, despite being also useful before and during it. The aura that he had exhausted was full to bursting once again, like a boat riding a strong current, and lactic acid filling his muscles were melting away. On top of that, it stopped the coldness inside his mana circuit from rampaging, which was about to happen, so it was truly the greatest cultivation method in many ways. This is pretty funny. Since he had obtained the Ring of Fire while running away after fighting against Eden, it could be considered funny. They were also the enemies that had killed his father and his sister, though. Yeah. Kill all the green demons. Finish the battle. Since Raon was still standing and watching them, the green demons didn't dare attack back nor run away. They just offered their necks to the trainees. The battle ended in less than 10 minutes, and the trainees were the only ones standing in front of the wooden fence. Raon. After slaying the last green demon, Runan ran up to him and grabbed his shoulder. It seemed to be her way of complimenting him. Raon Zighart. Bayan approached him after that. Ha, why you were right. The enemies were strong, and we were weak. It looks like I was blinded from that one victory. I'm sorry. He bowed while biting his lip, so much that it could be mistaken as a pledge of obedience. If it wasn't for you, not only us but the villagers we were supposed to save would also have died. Thank you. And I'm sorry. However, Bayan continued, while raising his head. I would have still gone to help them. Even if I'm too weak, ignoring injustice isn't what a Zighart swordsman would do. You did well. Raon nodded, meeting Bayan's green eyes. What? I managed to find the green war demon's opening thanks to you fighting with everything you have. You took a great part in this victory. What are your intentions? What do you want from me? Hearing a compliment he had never expected, Bayan's fingers trembled in nervousness. I'm being honest. It will be different next time. Bayan murmured, lowering his head. I'm going to be strong enough to catch up to you in the future and do my job properly. He bowed once again. It was his expression of gratitude, for saving his life and giving him enlightenment. Thank you for saving me and everyone's lives. After saying that, Bayan entered the village along with the collaterals. It looked like they were going to start the reconstruction right away. Considering the way he was thinking about the village in that situation, he really had the talent to become a leader. Martha. Raon called Martha, who was standing still with her arms crossed. Good job. I managed to direct the fight in my favor thanks to you doing your job. If Martha didn't attract the Green War Demon's attention until the end, he would have failed his surprise attack and the fight would have been a lot more difficult. She had done better than she was told. I should bite my tongue and kill myself if I can't even follow the instructions. After swaying her corner of her lips, Martha turned her head and entered the village. Despite what she said, she seemed to like the compliment. Ha! Raon sighed. Probably because his tension had disappeared completely, the strength left his legs regardless of his body's exhaustion. Tap. As he was about to collapse back, he felt something soft touch his back. He turned his head and saw Runan supporting him. You looked like you were going to collapse. She nodded her head. How did you realize that? It was the same during the training. Runan nodded head, her mouth closed. I see. Just as he had been watching the other trainees, it seemed they had been watching him as well. Ha! Raon snickered and sat down. He wanted to fall asleep. He had been too tense. You have surpassed. Multiple messages were appearing in front of his eyes, but he didn't have any energy left to read them. He just closed his eyes and fell asleep. Chapter 75. Raon opened his eyes, feeling refreshed after his long slumber. You have surpassed your limits in an extreme battle. All stats have increased by 1. You have defeated an opponent at a higher level than yourself. Title Indomitable has been created. You have successfully performed a surprise attack to an opponent stronger than yourself. Trait Backstab has been created. They were all positive messages. Raon blinked and raised his body. He was inside a log house that he had never seen before. It looked like he was still in Cebu village. What's all this? He checked the messages once again. They were about the ability, title, and trait that he had obtained through his fight against the Green War Demon. Why are you getting so many rewards for defeating such a weakling? Wrath ground his teeth. He seemed displeased about the fact that he was getting rewarded. He was just a tenacious idiot. And yet, you are getting stats, a title, and even a trait. This is ridiculous. It's your ability, though. Raon raised his hand to push away Wrath, who was emanating coldness and wrath at the same time. Damn it! I didn't realize when I was using it, but that's seriously. Wrath didn't finish his sentence, but Raon could understand him nonetheless. This is certainly a cheat. Raon slowly nodded and opened the status window. Status window. Name, Raon Zighart. Title, Indomitable. State, Curse of Frost, 5 strands. Trait, Wrath, Ring of Fire, 4 stars, Water Resistance, 4 stars, Perception of the Snowflower, 3 stars, 10,000 Flames Cultivation, 3 stars, Coldness of the Frost, 3 stars, Fire Resistance, 3 stars, Bleeding Curse, 1 stars, Backstab, 1 star. Strength, 57. Agility, 58. Stamina, 59. Energy, 42. Perception, 64. The first thing he noticed was the title. It had changed from the first victory to Indomitable. He noticed despite the title having changed, the effect of the previous title still remained. He checked the new title. Indomitable. Title given to one who has displayed their unyielding spirit during a fight against a stronger opponent. Effect, all stats increase by 3% upon fighting a stronger opponent. Is this for real? Raon furrowed his brows. A 3% increase didn't look like a big deal, but it was an ability that got better the stronger he was. Since most of the opponents he was going to face in the future would be stronger than him, the title's effect could also be considered semi-permanent. Then next. He then checked the new trait, Backstab. Backstab, 1 star. Upon performing a surprise attack or assassination, your presence decreases and the chance to inflict critical injury increases. It's a trait specialized for assassination. It was a trait that decreased his presence and increased the chance of a critical hit. If only I had this before. The Green War Demon had noticed his presence before he had started to attack him. If only he had the trait beforehand, he might have been able to finish him off in a single strike. Well, I wouldn't have been able to obtain those abilities in that case. Since he had gotten stronger after a difficult battle, it was a misfortune turned into a blessing. Raon closed the status window after checking the increased stats. I'm getting stronger day by day thanks to you. Thank you. Ku. Wrath, who couldn't see the status window, was glaring at him with his blue eyes. You won't be able to die peacefully. I'm going to chew on your body over and over and over, then make you suffer for eternity. Do it if you can. Since Raon was on his second life, after having already experienced the worst death ever, Wrath's anger and threats were something he could scoff at. Ugh. Raon stretched his body and stood up. The muscle pain and headache that he was suffering from had disappeared, probably thanks to the increased stats. Rattle. Once he opened the door and went outside, he could see the black sky, just like when he collapsed. It seemed he had slept for an entire day. It's rebuilt. The village's wooden fence was rebuilt, sturdier and higher than before. It looked like all the trainees had worked together. Raon? He turned upon hearing a surprised voice, only to see Runan standing there. Judging from how she was holding a wash basin, it looked like she was on her way to his room. Are you okay? Yes. Raon nodded. His condition had returned to normal after a long sleep. Let's go, then. Where? Dinner. Everyone's gathered. She pointed to her back with her finger. Raon rubbed his stomach. He was indeed hungry since he didn't eat anything for over an entire day. All right. Raon followed Runan to the center of the village. Fire was burning from a big brazier at the center, and the villagers and the trainees were gathered around it. A few people couldn't be seen, they must have been standing guard. Ha! Raon! Sir Raon! Raon Zighart! The benefactor woke up. Benefactor! The trainees and the villagers, who were sitting in a circle around the brazier, stood up at once and shouted. How's your body? Are you okay? Are you hurt anywhere? I'm glad you woke up. Bayan ran up to him with wide eyes first, the other trainees following and examining him with worried gazes. Benefactor. Thank you for saving the village. Benefactor. You fought so much for the sake of our village. The villagers, including the village chief, also ran up to him and knelt to express their gratitude. Raon swallowed, watching them all. Everyone's gazes. He could see the emotions contained in those eyes. Thanks, gratitude, repayment, awe. From the trainee's eyes, he could see embarrassment, gratitude, awe, aspiration, yearning, etc. They had decided that Raon would be their role model, and they would follow and pursue his swordsmanship. Raon received the people's gazes, the ones that were touching his heart deeply. His heart fluttered. An emotion he had never felt before was enveloping his heart. When he was an assassin in his previous life, he had never received emotions of gratitude, acknowledgement, and yearning. Life and death were the only things that existed then. He put his life on the line to kill people and gather information for the sake of House Robert, yet the acknowledgement and reward all went to the public people like Darius Robert. It was his first time in either of his lives getting acknowledged like that. He was thrilled, in a different way than when he felt accomplished from training his swordsmanship or aura. He looked at everyone once again. The villagers were shouting out their gratitude, and the trainees were worrying about him with gazes full of yearning and awe. Yes, from now on. Raon clenched his fist. Since he was going to live as a swordsman instead of an assassin, it was a sight he was going to behold countless times in the future. He wanted more. The desire to become acknowledged even more and receive more yearning gazes was born inside him. Even more in the future. Raon visited the village chief after finishing his meal. The village chief was flustered, bending forward significantly to bow. Can I talk to you for a moment? Oh, of course. He raised the village chief's body, which was rolled up like a larva, and brought him to a corner. Are you already aware of the identity of those who attacked the village? Ah, yes. I know that they are a group called Eden, who can control monsters. The village chief nodded. Even a small village like that was aware of Eden's infamy. But I don't understand why we became their target. It's a small village with nothing to gain for them. The village chief shook his head, murmuring that it was weird. I heard about it while fighting against them, but didn't you obtain a red gem from Cebu Mountain in the past? Red gem? Ah, I have one. I found it in the mountains when I was young and brought it to the village. Wait, no way. Yes, that gem was their target. The village chief's eyes widened at hearing Raon's words. Then, all of this happened because of that pebble. That's right. He nodded. He needed to tell him honestly so that he would give him the gem of his own accord. The village was almost destroyed because of me. Oh, no. It was all my fault. The village chief sank on his knees and started hitting the ground. Eden's demons will keep coming to the village as long as the gem remains here. I've been treating it like a guardian deity, since the soil had become fertile, and the cold had subsided ever since I buried the gem underground. Something like that. Raon became more certain after hearing it from the village chief. The Goblin King was a monster with a powerful fire attribute. Since it was a gem left behind by him, it must have been warming up the village. Then what shall I do? Shall I throw away the gem now? I'll take it with me. Pardon? Is the benefactor really going to? Eden is an extremely evil group that tries to erase humanity from the continent. They will most likely end up obtaining it if you throw it away, so I'll bring it to Sieghart. I can't commit another offense to you like that. That's fine. That's what Sieghart does. Ah. Raon said something Bayan would say. The village chief seemed to be impressed, his eyes glittering like morning dew. Sieghart is granting us another favor that we can't return. Another? Yes. The current head of house, Glenn Sieghart, saved our village a few decades ago. I think it was when I was slightly older than the benefactor. The village chief raised his chin as if he were reminiscing about the past, looking up at the starry sky. The head of house did? Yes. He saved the entire village just like the benefactor and treated us kindly with a smile. Raon tilted his head. Kindness and a smile, huh? It was impossible to imagine, considering how Glenn looked currently. Ah, this old man just blabbered about the past. Come this way, I'll hand it over right now. The village chief scratched his head in embarrassment and went to his house, located to the east. So even that person used to be like that. Raon imagined Glenn's smile, who was now like a block of ice, and followed the village chief. The village chief's house was at the western end, where Raon had woken up. Since the village chief's house was usually located at the center, it was unusual for it to be at the end. So, this was the village chief's house. Please excuse me. Oh, it was nothing. The village chief waved his hand at Raon. But don't village chiefs usually live at the center? Since I've been living here all along, I grew attached to it and didn't really want to leave. The village chief scratched his chin and went to the yard. I've buried it here. I thought it was a blessing since it was warming up the village, but it was actually a curse. He started digging a small field in the yard. After digging for about 30 minutes, he finally took out something wrapped in a black fabric. What is that fabric? It's a wrapping cloth passed down for generations in my family. Since this pebble was shining so intensely, I wrapped it so it wouldn't be noticed. While saying that, the village chief unraveled the fabric. Whir! Along with an intense heat, a powerful red light shone upon the dim garden. It seemed like the whole world had become bright with an enormous fire. This is the Goblin King's magic stone. If Eden managed to obtain that magic stone, they would have created a new monster possessing the Goblin King's abilities. Sir, wrap it back in that cloth for no. That was why. As Raon was about to tell him to hide the gem once again, a calm and deep voice could be heard from the right side. Ha! Raon raised his head, standing in front of the village chief. A general in a battlefield would have looked like him. He looked rough and fierce, his body full of scars. He had an extremely large build, and the way he was standing on a thin wooden fence with that big body of his looked out of this world. The most distinct feature was his eyes. Madness could be seen in his yellow eyes, making the hair on his neck stand on end. I couldn't even sense him, though. Since he didn't even manage to perceive him despite his huge build, he wasn't just an expert. Who are you? Me? I wonder. As he flicked his finger, a green helmet appeared in front of his eyes. It had a round shape with buck teeth protruding to top and bottom, and a single horn existed on its head. Ogre. The helmet was in the shape of a monster known as the Tyrant of the Mountains, and the man was spinning it on his finger. Guess who I am?